Welcome once again to One-on-One with TJK, ladies and gentlemen. This is another day God has given us. Let us rejoice in it. It's Friday, so later today I will be saying Happy Sabbath, like you saw on this channel. I am Seventh-day Adventist. I observe the Sabbath, and today being Friday, I have a guest with me who also observes the Sabbath, and he would say Happy Sabbath to you because in Uganda, it is already that time when the Sabbath is coming. Today, ladies and gentlemen, on TJK One-on-One, we have an amazing man, but also a young person to me, because he's my nephew. He's married to my niece, Hilda. His name is Dr. Nuwamanya Ephraim, and I'm going to read you just a little bit on him, which is public information on LinkedIn. Dr. Nuwamanya Ephraim is an experienced research officer with a demonstrated history of working in the biotechnology industry, with emphasis because this is where the world is going, where the world is. He's skilled in DNA sequencing, molecular biology, biotechnology, sequencing, and plant tissue culture. Strong community and social services professional with a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, focused in plant psychology, agriculture, and this was obtained at Makere University, an amazing university in Uganda. I've met so many PhD students, I've met so many PhD professors. Until I met Ephraim, I didn't know you can get a PhD that young and be that accomplished. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ephraim. And I'm going to let him speak about himself quickly, self-introduction, and then we'll ask him our first question. 3 questions usually we cover with 3. We cover the topic that we want you, especially young people, my young people in Uganda, my young people around the world, who are there thinking, how do I get to the next level? How do I climb this ladder? What do I do now? How did the Jacksons become to be Jacksons? How did the Ephraims become Ephraims? Introduce yourself, my man.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a big one on the introduction. Yes, I'm Ephraim Nuwamanya. I teach in Makere, so I'm a lecturer. I teach plant physiology, so much as you called it psychology, so it is plant physiology. And here we are looking at the functioning of plants. So our main target is to understand how plants function. And it is from there that you are going to get your good food. It is from there that you are going to get your good medicine. And it is from there that you even get your good clothing, even fuel, to say it. So I'm more of an innovative researcher, looking at new trends in biotechnology and applications in biotechnology. So when you come to my lab, I'm working on things that are trending these days: bioplastics, biodiesel, bio everything, and working with a number of good people, young men and women, that are actually also making a big difference out there in Uganda. So that's me, and I'm married with 1 wife. 3 children. My daughter is about 9 years now, 8 to 9 years, and 2 sons, and they are living here with me. I'm a happy parent and a happy academician. That's how I can describe myself.
Thank you, thank you. And you see, when you get to an age where somebody you are interviewing has children that call you grandpa, a word that I have refused to take on, and they call me uncle because I'm an uncle to Ephraim, and another uncle to make it grandpa in different words. I invented that word. Please, when you get to my babies, give them hugs and tell them uncle sent you greetings, Chabs, Zaju, and my man. Please get hugs from uncle. I know you will watch this, and I love you. Can't wait to give you big hugs. When you get to this age, ladies and gentlemen, also you put on glasses to read. And here it was called psychology when it is what? Physiology.
Physiology.
This is where you get your food. I'm trying to get Dr. Kasenen on this channel so he can teach us some of the healthy eating. But before Dr. Kasenen recommends that food, we have Dr. Ephraim here, who makes sure in the lab he's looking at the food we eat, the medicine we eat. He's said so many bios, ladies and gentlemen: biotechnology, bioplastic. Bioplastic is something I am so much interested in. And in our family, we actually call him for some time Dr. Cassava, because he takes the starch out of that cassava and he will make a plastic bag, a bag out of it that is biodegradable. You can say this, you can say these words. Meaning that the bag you take from the restaurant or from the store at the food mart, when you get home and throw it in your banana plantation, it will become soil again. Is that right?
That's very right. And that is why we are interested in it.
And that's the trend where we are going. The presidents around the world are all looking at this bio, because it will sustain our environment. In the second segment of this interview, you will meet an environmental engineer. I'm not going to say his name right now, but he will come on later. Maybe by the time Dr. Ephraim is picking up children, we will then segue into another interview. Dr. Ephraim, at your young age with a PhD leading so many people in your labs, when did you know you wanted to be a scientist? And how did you really nail down that passion that this is what I want to do, this is what I love to do, and I'm going to do it?
Well, thank you. Frankly, I wanted to be a medical doctor.
Okay.
And right from my young age, even talking to my parents, I'd always wanted to be a medical doctor until that time when I was at entire school and the grades did not make it to medicine.
Okay.
So my really passion for biochemistry came as a surprise. When I couldn't go to medical school, I got admitted to Makere to undertake a degree course in biochemistry.
Yes.
And it is from there that I learned all these other things of physiology and the bios I'm talking about. So, however, what I want to say is that did not dampen my spirit, because ideally, knowing that I wanted to be a doctor and not being able to get the grades that could take me to medical school, one would have said, well, I'm not going to go any further. Exactly. So I carved in my niche in biochemistry and became a scientist in that area. That was around 19 years old. But the dream to become a medical doctor was far much earlier, around primary 7. And why I admired medicine is because they used to put on white gowns. It sounds very funny, but that is
white gown. Yep.
Out the crossing and the like, but also society took them highly, and I felt, talking to my mother, who was a community nurse by then, she talked highly of doctors, and talking highly of doctors, I felt I should be that person. But also the passion was more to do with basically helping out with sicknesses. I grew up in a very deep village, and in this village, the only hospital that was available was the Shaka Adventist Hospital, yes, which was about 25 to 30 kilometers away. So ideally, I suffered several diseases as a young person. It was sometimes that I could not even visit a doctor at that age. However, I felt every time I went to that hospital, and that guy, there was a Dr. Rusero, a white man.
Yes, I know Rusero.
Yeah, every time he touched me, I would get okay. I don't know. So that's where the passion came from. And that is how I ended up doing sciences at my ordinary level. And I had opted also for physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics at my advanced level of education. So basically, I think passion builds with time, and if you follow it, maybe you should be able to achieve it. But if you don't achieve it, you still be within that area or around that area where you felt you should have been even before.
Wonderful. Wow, you see, you had doctor as a kid, and this actually touches on the education system in Uganda.
Sure.
I am doing this interview from United States. I went through schools in Uganda. I wanted to be a lawyer as a kid, couldn't get the grades to go into law school, ended up in social sciences, ended up in Colombia studying human rights, and then nailed in my niche and became who I've become. So young people who are still there struggling to decide what you want to do. At 19, the scientist, the doctor who is doing bio everything here wanted to be a doctor, but when he didn't, it didn't discourage him from continuing to pursue, dig deeper into biochemistry. So you might not know right now. So that leads into another question that we've asked every guest on this channel. What advice then would you give to a younger self when you were 18, 19 to 21? Have many young people, including Nicholas, my own biological son, and all sons and daughters from Nyaka you have met, and some of the ones that you are still mentoring within the family and outside the family. What advice would you give to those young people?
Yeah, the first piece of advice I would give is that people should not fear their own circumstances. What made me fail to get to medical school was because in entire school, I struggled so much to impress and to do whatever I'm supposed to do so that I could go to medical school.
Yeah.
And ideally, this stressed me up to the extent that education-wise, I started working against pressure when I should not have been doing that. So my first piece of is be yourself, you will make it. Be yourself, you will be able to do what you are supposed to do.
Yes.
The second piece is that whenever you don't get where you were supposed to be, make sure that you are going to exploit the available opportunities within that environment. When the list for university came, I can tell you, my father was looking at the list for medicine. and it was so funny when he didn't find my name there. He said, well, you failed it. You didn't make it to the university.
Oh my God, yes.
Wow. I was like, well, you haven't looked at the whole list. So we used to have a newspaper called Orumuri in those our village, and the names of all people who are going to university would be in that paper. So the old man went and bought the newspaper and read through the medicine students, and I was not among them. But then later on, I picked the very paper and started reading through other courses that had been provided for. Yes. And lo and behold, my name was among those courses, those people that we are going to actually be doing still the science that we are still doing today. So don't exploit the environment you are in. Keep the hope alive. Exactly. Try as much as possible, because you will always be able to exploit. If you exploit the environment very well, you'll always be able to make it. Now, the third one comes in when I was at the university. I faced quite a number of challenges, and that is where I realized that networking is quite important. So whenever opportunity to network, especially when you are carving your career path comes, make sure you network. I can comfortably say that because of my small network, I was able to be interviewed for a master's degree even before I graduated from my bachelor's degree. So this professor of mine, who was a good friend of mine, and another friend, Wilbur Sabit. Wilbur Sabit comes from Kanungu. He's a biochemist working in Brussels. And this man told me, no, go for it. This is your area. They coached me through it. They told me what I was supposed to do. They were my good friends. And when I went for this interview for a master's degree, I was able to pass, even when I didn't have any supporting documents. I am told that the professor who was now interviewing me had to make a background check on me. And guess who he asked? The head of department. The head of the,
yes.
Yeah. And the man told him, no, he's a quite good young man. That's how I went into agriculture. That's how I went into plant physiology and the like. However, I was still following my path, asking for my first job in a pharmaceutical distributor company, Star Pharmaceuticals, which didn't go well. But still, with this master's, I was more than comfortable, ready to do research and ready to contribute to the world. The other aspect of the network is with the supervisor I got when I started doing my master's. Dr. Yona Baguma was a good man who was willing to listen to us, but he took special interest in what I was doing. Now, this talks to my innovative part of life, where I have been able to come up with several innovations that are still being exploited by different people, to get Naro on the map, to get Makere University on the map. For example, the bioplastics and the biodiesels I was talking about. So he inculcated in me an idea-making personality. Every time you would say, think out of the box. What would you do that would actually make you a different person from whatever other people are doing?
Yes.
So that is another way, another piece of advice I would give to the young people. Ask yourself every time you sit down, what am I doing that makes myself different? And if you discover that, then you are going to carve your own niche somewhere. We all won't be like you. You have a big portfolio with Nyaka, a big portfolio worldwide. But even in that small niche where you are, what is your contribution? What do they know you about? And that kind of thing. Then finally, this comes to when I got married. Hilda, your daughter is a very challenging person. So she pushed me beyond the limits, because by the time I married her, I was doing my PhD, and she helped me sail through the PhD very well. I'm talking about the relationships that you hold, the people that come into your life. What is their contribution to you? Because ideally, if you don't get to people who match up with your expectations, most likely you won't get there. When I married her, I told her I need to have my PhD by 29 years. And lo and behold, I got my PhD by 29 years and a few months.
Yes, sir.
I was able to achieve it because of the way she pushed me. Even on my graduation party, she said it, told everybody, this guy wanted to make sure that he gets his PhD before 30, and he didn't get it, missed it by months. But I knew she meant what she was saying and she was happy about it. So really, I appreciate her for that. She has been supporting me, those trips here and there, staying with the family and doing everything possible that we move on. So basically, who are you relating with?
Yes.
What could you have around yourself? What are their aspirations? What are they? Where are they taking you? What are they looking at themselves? And if you get it right, then you should be able to have it right even as you move forward in the future.
Whoa. Yes. Man, that wisdom. Somebody will think you're 70 years old right now. And sometimes really people who are listening to us, your wisdom and knowledge does not come with age. As we can see right here, the first lesson here is do not fear. Many of us are scared. You have the fear, you don't want to explore. We've talked about networking. You've talked about the importance of mentors. We have focused a lot on these mentors with Sabit, who is your mentor, and Professor Baguma here, Yona Baguma, who have worked with you. And as we mentor people, we also let's know that we ourselves are mentors. And the people we mentor, we need to encourage them also to mentor others. That way we can continue the process going. The reason I started this TJK channel is to make sure we share knowledge, share it freely with as many people around the world as possible. So in a way of giving back, we are bringing you people, we are bringing you professionals. And you can imagine, if you have not heard of biodiesel, after every episode, please go back and research, look more, dig deeper, and try to connect with the people we are interviewing, because we cannot cover everything in one episode. As you've heard, man is doing all this research. He has told us that relationships, including his wife, who encouraged him to keep moving. Sometimes we get discouraged and we need that extra push. We are talking about biochemistry. One of these days, I will convince Nicholas's mom, who is a biochemist and plant scientist, to come and share about her book recently she wrote called Lessons Plants Teach Us. The title I can't know, but I will get her to come and share more about science. So you have given advice to young people and young self. You told us about your background. I've been at Narrow Research Station in your office where Tessa wanted to do an experiment so bad. I've met the young people and the older people that work with you and seen amazing transformation and futuristic work you do. How do you manage resources within these labs, resources that God has given you, and also work with different people from different backgrounds, from different professions at your age? What's your management style? How do you go about this? What can we learn from it?
Well, it's more of a blended kind of style, if I could say.
Yes.
Because there is no one stone for almost everything. You have to understand it from an individual perspective. So managing to work with different people from different background is actually hinged on the fact that you need to understand individuals as individuals. So I usually go into the lab and sit with you while you work and talk to you and encourage you and tell you where we are going. So apparently ours is more of an encouraging management style because as you know, in Uganda, the pay is not good. You're almost everywhere and people need to keep on working. So you need to make sure that they stay on course. I've been trying to make it through some business management course, a master's course called MBA in management. So what I have learned from there, partly I'm applying it, especially when it comes to managing the resources. So the resources we have are very limited, first of all, but we know that these resources can always get us somewhere. So the best way to work around them is to have a focused kind of discussion on each and every aspect that we do in the lab. There is no way we can opt to do things that won't benefit the community at that. And so sometimes we have to prioritize. So the biggest issue is prioritization. So in terms of resources, it is just about prioritization. What is the priority now? What should we do? And how is it going to impact our immediate key performance indicators? So that is the thing. If you don't have that immediate impact, definitely when you come to my office, I will tell you, you know what, first wait, we will get there. Of course, being funded by the government also has its own issues. because sometimes you have delays in funding, you have delays in what. So I have come to understand that we need to have what we call some kind of a cash machine outside the government funding. So
Yes.
this is where I approach people and tell them, we are doing this. Can you be able to bridge the gap as we move forward? And so it also comes to the aspect of networking. So you can be able to get resources from different areas to bridge gaps within what you are already doing. But also, I think in terms of resources, I believe that it is not about how much you have, but it's about what you have to show for it. So recently, my mother-in-law, your sister, was visiting. So we had a show. I hope she will tell you this story one of these days.
Yeah.
So when we had a show, I encouraged her to go there and check out on these things. Your daughter Hilda kept on saying, will you be able to understand these things? Where are you going there? What? But then she managed to go there, and I avoided her. So she went there alone to make her own mind about what we do. And
Yes.
one of the things that came out was, you have things that we need. So
Mhm.
whenever I'm managing something and somebody comes out and tells me, you have those things out there that we actually need in our community, that tells me I'm doing something that is impactful, I'm doing something that is acceptable, and that means I have managed my resources properly. That
Amen.
doesn't mean you will not get disappointments. You go out there and people tell you, what the hell is this? What were you thinking about? We don't need this. So yes, there are those backlogs and the like, but we move anyway.
Wonderful, wonderful. Again, management style, managing your resources. In one of the episodes, Doc, we interviewed Sharon Tumushale, my niece also, who is in Zeno investments and savings, because we want to get in that culture of savings and preparing for the future. As a parent, there is also something that has been coming up in every episode we have had interviewing on TJK one-on-one, which is the role our mothers play. Some of us, our background, many of us who are going to be listening didn't come from a background where your mom and dad sat you down and go, this is how you save money. This is how you go about managing resources. This is how you tithe. They might have told us about tithing because we grew up in the church. Nobody told us about saving, what you do with the bank, how do you use investment. So when we talk about these things, people, let's, especially our young people on the continent of Africa, know that you can manage your resources, you can save money, you can buy your little land at some point. We have to have a difference between buying a car and buying land, building your own house, stop renting, which are things we will also talk about as we move forward. And those of you who are watching, you also see a name popping down. We are going to do this segment, sub it into another environmental engineer I told you about. Now he's revealed his names, but we will talk to him shortly. Let's continue with Dr. Ephraim here. Managing people. You heard this professor goes and sits next to the person he's working with because he realized that he needs to encourage more than just talk. And within that, he realized also that maybe I don't know how to do this very well. I'm going to go find a skill in management. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a phone, regardless where you are, in Nyaka village, in Karamoja, in Nicaragua, in Russia, in India, you can go on this phone and take a course in something you are interested in. And the good news is most of these courses are free. You can pay for some, but if you don't want to get a certificate right now, you can go on Harvard University, MIT, Michigan State, maybe Makere University, and take a small course, whether it is agriculture, whether it is managing your resources, whether it is managing people. I didn't born as a fundraiser. I didn't born as a philanthropist. I didn't born knowing how to invest money and how to build my mother house, but I learned these things. I read a lot, read the books. I make sure I read books that are relevant to what I want, but I also take courses. I read blogs every morning. Many of you are spending so much time doing things that will not build you. Invest in doing things that will build your career, build your family, and build you as a person. So, Doc, Ephraim, my son,
Yes.
you interact with all these young professionals like you. We have seen many of them mismanage resources. We have seen on Twitter people talking about things they should not be talking about, making fools of themselves. We've seen social media people posting naked pictures because they are mad at their former girlfriends or their ex-wives and ex-husbands. They are those who are your age, who are living in this space. What advice would you advise those people? How do you use social media to build yourself? How do you stay focused? Many of them have out of their faith because they want to be like Kim Kardashian or be like so and so. They still think are performing in Barara next day. They are, oh, I'm looking for this and this. They are posting things just to get followers on Twitter. Your age, my age, this is not limited to only your age, my age.
Yeah.
Growing up, social media was not there. You referred how your father looked into Oromoli paper, which is no longer there. Now we have TV West. The most popular programs seem to be the ones that are self-gratifying, showing us we need to live a certain way when we can't even afford it. People have debts they cannot pay. They buy clothes they cannot afford. They rather buy a shoe to impress somebody at a party rather than buy medicine at home to heal the wound they have. How should we go about this in this society we are raising our children in?
That issue. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. So I will start on managing personally. Well, I made a decision to manage myself socially and personally on a personal level when I was finishing university. So ideally, my first salary went into making sure that I make a very good beginning for my siblings and my family here and there, meaning that taught me something that is now going to bring me the social media aspect.
Yes.
So every time you sit in there, where are you focusing? Because I was focusing more on what my family was then, I became a socially responsible person, knowing that everything that I do is not going to hurt me alone, but will hurt almost everybody. However, being an academic professional, I also need to understand the trends that are going out there in the world so that I become relevant to the generation that I have to deliver teaching material to, that I have to deliver knowledge to, and the like. So I appear on Twitter. Yes, and on Twitter simply for that, because I need to be there to get in touch with the generation that I'm dealing with, that I'm interacting with on a daily basis, which is a university student.
Yes.
So how do I conduct myself there? One thing I have understood is that, yes, you may need a following, but that does not mean you are going to control this following. These are individuals that are out there. They have their own brains. They have their own way of thinking. You need to manage yourself properly. So first of all, I post more about the kind of work we do. And once in a week, I'll make sure that I make a post that is relevant to my academics.
Yes.
However, realize that social media people, as you said, are interested in other things. So whatever comes up, which is interesting in my life, as a family man, I'll post it. So sometimes I post protect myself. Recently, I posted about how somebody in class came up and told me, "Oh, you chose properly." and it was very interesting because you are in class and the student pops up because your screensaver, your presentation has gone off, and your screensaver has your wife and children, and
Yes.
person comments. So how do you handle it? So when I posted it, the very person actually who said it also commented on it in the very class I was teaching. So I realized it was a positive comment at the end of the day, but
Yes.
it puts me in that space where I can be able to interact with these people at their own very level, and
Yes.
so like be able to pass on information easily to them. I don't look so linked from them. I don't have to be abusive somehow. I have to be very careful because every time you post something, everybody has his own thoughts. So I
Exactly.
have to be careful the way I respond to whatever I have posted. Sometimes you even post academic information and somebody challenges it. So you have to deal with that. One time I posted a work on bioplastics and somebody told me, if you think you are so good, how come you have not taken this thing to the people who need it? What is your problem? He was a white man. He was so close to me.
Yes.
And then I tell him, the situation and the system we work with in Uganda is not the same as the system in England. When you have an innovation in the US, in the UK, it's easy to get to the space where it is supposed to be. But in Uganda, it takes time. It takes some pushing for you to get it there. But sometimes they don't understand. So that is one way I manage. Post a few things that actually interest people, talk about political affairs, talk about social affairs, but also mix it with academics and the like. Don't go overboard.
That's right.
Don't post your private life. So
Yeah.
I've never posted my children on social media, on Twitter, because the way the space is. But maybe on WhatsApp, I will post a picture of all of us there. I make sure that I protect them in one way or the other. When my student posts something that I feel like is not right, I don't comment, but I may get time to advise this person individually that, this is not the way things are done. But the most important one is that I wouldn't want to grow into a kind of Kim Kardashian. No, I don't want that. I just want to know that professor who posts both in the social life, but also in the academic life.
Yes.
And that means he's not linked from what we are, but is a part of us. So I'm using social media to teach. If you come to my lecture, the first lecture on introduction, I will download several tweets from my peers in the plant physiology, and I will show us that, this is what the world is doing. This is the direction people are thinking in. Even if we are in Uganda, this is how they are thinking in Australia. This is how they are thinking in USA, in Finland. Can we think the same way? Then that means I'll be able to impart a certain kind of knowledge on this generation of students, which will make them more innovative, more academic and the like. So yes, so many social platforms, but that is one of them. I am on WhatsApp. So I can tell you WhatsApp is very helpful. You can teach almost using WhatsApp. You can post a post on your status, which actually most of the students are going to see, and you can discuss it in class. Those who didn't understand it will ask you. You will have an opportunity to push your information to these people, even in areas where you cannot be able to tell them. So that is one of the ways I've been using social media to get out there and to make a difference somehow.
Very, very, very well said. Just to remember, all our listeners, the moment you put something on internet, it is permanent. Many of us get fooled that you can put it on and delete it. Even when you delete it, it is out there. So share something you will share with your mother. I think that's what advice I've given to young people when they say, oh, I posted this. If you can't share it with your mother at a dinner table, don't share it on social media. If it is something you are proud you can share with your mother, please do share it. Now, before you leave us, and you can stay as long as you want, we I'm going to ask you one more question as we wrap up, but let me take this opportunity to welcome your Muko. Your Muko, my son, born in my hands, now with lots of beard. Ladies and gentlemen, our environmental engineer, I made sure I bring this together because we are talking about plant physiology, medicine, food, and I wanted to bring in environmental engineering, resources, and water management, and everything he's going to tell you about. But for me, as your uncle, this is such a pleasure and a humbling moment to sit right here in the United States and interview two professionals who have grown while I'm watching. Two professionals whose grandparents, my father and my mother, would look back, my mother would look back and say, I did it. For a grandmother who never went to school, who didn't speak a word in English, here I am with 3 PhDs. Here is a Muko with a PhD. Here is a grandbaby Michael pursuing PhD, doing environmental engineering. Proud moment, baby. Michael, who are you? Introduce yourself. As soon as you're introducing yourself, I'm going to ask you, Muko, our professional here, another question. And is this question, so you know what I'm going to ask you, is what I call shameless brag. Everyone who comes here, whether it is a paper you have written and you want people to see, whether it is a book you have written, whether it is a website you want people to go to, whether it is a shop you run and you want people to go to, whether you have started a business in the kindergarten teaching and you want people to bring their children, this is the time when you brag, that shameless brag, and direct people there. Michael, my man, he calls me my hero, a title I don't take lightly. Who are you? The people, your professional life here.
Thank you very much, Uncle and Hero. By name, I'm Ahimbisibwe Michael. By training, environmental science or engineering, then a master's in renewable energy, and currently pursuing a PhD in biosystems engineering. My background has been work in agriculture and environment. I've done some work on clean energy and also renewable energy, that is biodiesel, solar, hydro, and biogas, briquettes, and other forms of biomass. Currently, I've been working with the UNDP on a project of mapping food systems and also realigning different stakeholders and developing a tool on how different people with different backgrounds can come together and work together, the private sector that are profit-oriented, the government on this other side. So I've been consulting all of them, bringing them together in food, energy, and water. So basically, I would call an emerging scientist or professional in the areas of energy, water, and food. Thank you very much, Uncle.
Whoa, that is a mouthful. So for you, my older people who didn't know the future where we are heading, you hear all these words: food systems, renewable energy, solar, hydro, biomass. And you wonder what they are. Michael will tell you more about them. But Doc, Ephraim, before you leave, or you can stay as long as you want, what shameless brag would you like to put up to our people who are listening? And by the way, between the two of you, where I'm seated right now is 5 minutes from Michigan State University. Michigan State University gave me a job for 7 years. I will forever be thankful. Go green, go white. And this is an institution that is huge on food systems, huge on biochemistry and biodiversity. It was started way back 160 years ago, and they still continue to be the leaders in this area. I will send a link of this to the professors there. So if an opportunity hits, you know we will get it there. And then I will be interviewing my former boss from the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, who is now the president of Karupore University. My plan was to interview him before, then bring you in, but his schedule didn't work as the president of the university, you can imagine, but we'll bring him in. Then later in the year, we will bring you the Dean of University of Oklahoma College of Agriculture. Reason, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about agriculture over and over and over is we live on agriculture, we survive on agriculture. If we don't take care of our natural resources, if we don't embrace our farm, how we farm, if we don't look in these food systems, we will continue to go down here. So, shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yeah. So let me go. I and my wife have a care center, so that's what we do. But we also have a maize milling machine. So we pack maize, we pack food. And
yes. Hold on. The internet, we are so thankful to God that we have technology that can do this. But when you started, I and my wife, it started, we missed it. Say it again because we want people to know that you don't just do one thing, you have other things you do on the side. You and your wife did what?
So I and my wife, we have two businesses we are running. One, we run a kindergarten, a daycare for small kids, providing for our young people, ensure that they are trained as Christians and they are trained to grow up as responsible people who have the fear of the Lord. But aside that, we also have a company that packs maize flour, and this is food. So maize flour, which actually give to different people. We are trying to do this because we have seen that specific interventions in nutrition should be done by people who know, and here I am. I know one thing or the other about nutrition that we are doing in this case. Thank you.
Wonderful. So again, Ephraim and his wife Hilda, and by the way, you heard he went in the classroom, opened up his computer, and his student saw his wife and say, "You chose good." When he tweeted that, I responded that actually you were chosen. So we are so glad. Please tell Hilda, I'm sure she will see this when we post it, and the kids will see it, and they will see their Uncle Michael. And just to make the light, this moment really light, one of the uncle children called Bill calls Michael Aunt Michael. And this is because my family has more girls than boys. So he sees so many aunts, Aunt Jackie, Aunt Joan, Aunt Sharon, Aunt. So the Sam and Michael, who are also direct biological uncles, he goes, you know what? I don't want any aunts here. I'm going to call all of them Aunt. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Ephraim and Hilda have the kindergarten in Kasangat. And this is a kindergarten geared to bring children as God-fearing children. And they also have a milling machine where they pack posho, ugali. My followers in Kenya, you want posho from Uganda, you know where to order it. I will ask for the links afterwards and we'll put them under the episode in the comment section. This is the place where we learn and relearn. And learning never stops. And also what you see on screen are men of faith. We pray, observe the Sabbath. We love our Jesus. We love our God. We encourage you, regardless who your higher power is, to continue connected. No matter the circumstances you go through, there is some, for us, three of us, we have a God. We pray, we read our Bible, and I'm so glad to have men of faith on this screen. Thank you, Ephraim. You need to jump off. We will understand. You need to stay in and listen to your Moko. We also understand. Michael, environmental engineering. First question we've been asking every guest on this one-on-one with TJK, the channel that we take out there for people to learn and relearn, is to help and share as much free information as we can to the audiences around the world. After running in Nyaka for many years, to become global, growing up in a village with your mom and your aunts and your uncle who passed away and your aunt who passed away, none of us knew we could be here at this moment, taking the message to the world. So as a first question for you, you told us who you are. We'll go deeper and we'll get also through the 3 questions. But we want people who are listening to know the advice you will give yourself when you were 18 or 19. You are not far away from there, but you've passed that age. So talk to our young people who are listening from all over the world. What would Michael advise himself when he was 18 or 19?
All right, thank you so much, Hero. And thank you for this arrangement where we get to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And also, in a humble, I would want to thank you for setting good precedents, not just for the family, but for everyone where you've gone, people you've spoken to. There's a lot of room you leave to desire and inspiration you give us. So what advice would Michael give to an 18-year-old, or what advice did Michael give himself at 18? At 18 years, I think I had just finished my A-level, that is transitioning from high school to university. One of the things I was told, there were so many things they told us about university, and we're told there's freedom, there's clubbing, there's alcohol. You literally can do anything, anytime, anywhere with whoever you want.
Yes.
And I had grown up with a nuclear family of 5, stringent. My mom is very, very good authoritarian. I think that would be a befitting one. So there was no room for compromise. And
yes,
when you hear freedoms, you hear ability to experiment, there are lots of anxieties that you may get. So the advice I started on with, one, at first, let me first say this. I was given this environmental course with bias because I thought I would go to civil engineering, telecom, and the rest. So at first, I was a bit resentful at heart for the course I had been given. And Ephraim, who has just gone off, told me, there is nothing like a bad course because every knowledge that is passed on is required in this path. The only difference that you'll make is what will you use that knowledge for? So I went there at campus and I tried to change course. Things didn't work out. I was stuck with my environmental science. And one of the things I told myself is, if you want to get to do what you want, make sure you excel at this point. So I was told everything at campus counts. Every mark, coursework, assignment, everything counts. So I told myself, now that I've gotten this course, which was not my choice, my very first choice, I am going to perform it so excellently that in case I want to top on something I love, there will be no excuse. I can just follow through. So the first thing I told, one, excel at whatever I was going to do. And I went ahead. By the grace of God, I managed to get a first class. But in excelling at campus, I was told it's not enough to just perform well. So I had to make friends. One of the friends I did, I participated in university politics. I was a college deputy speaker. I was a school legal advisor in as much as there's no legalness in me. I was also a speaker for the department. So I also engaged in that. Then spirituality, there were different clubs for worship, different clubs for sports, in particular football. And I participated in all that to create different networks. I also went ahead to participate in some debating, which I thought maybe would incline me to politics, but there was reservations on that. So I tried to try everything I could at campus. I did some little sports. I did go to politics. I made sure I excelled in as much as I could. Then the second thing that I advised myself, one is, I am very outspoken and a bit confident, but when it used to come to females, I would not be that bold and confident to approach, present my proposal and all that. So one of the things I was told by some, I think there was a gentleman who was finishing in the Adventist Association. He told me, if you don't want to lose out on campus, identify someone, make sure you have as many female friends as possible to understand what females like, expectations, their anxieties, their fears. So I tried to do that and I was successful at having the friends, but I was still anxious to identify or isolate one and, you know, get into a relationship. But towards third year, I identified one and we tried out things. So one of the things I would advise is get to have friends, as many as possible. And in those friends, be as honest as you can and build relationships that will not just help you go through campus, but you can bench on in the future. So the advice I would give, one, excel at whatever you're doing and try as many things as possible when you're still young or when you're still 18. So you can grow professionally, you can grow your talent, and you can grow your networks. Then number two, make as many friends. Then the third thing that I would advise myself is try to be healthy, either exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, try to be healthy. And some of the things that would participate in the swimming, the jogging, the football, all these things would be nice. Then there was also MUSDA programs to do with nutrition. So try to be as healthy as much as possible. The last thing is that I managed to do is, one of the reasons I was motivated to be in those different clubs is I needed mentors. So at campus, whenever you'd be on a college committee, whether you're at the college council, students council, department, or school, the people who would mentor you would be principals, deans, and heads of department. You would have free access to their offices. You would learn how to manage a budget, either for an institution. As a speaker, I had a budget. So I was able to rub shoulders with giants, and it's on the shoulders of giants that we can see far or even progress. So those would be the four things that I took as advice, but I would also advise. One, excel at whatever it is, academics, sports, talent, and explore. Number two, try to be healthy. That is nutrition, that is exercise, that is good rest, air, water, and the rest, you can also add them. Number three, rub shoulders with people that will influence you in the right direction. Those deans, at campus, you may have everyone, but we're exposed to deans, we're exposed to principals, we're exposed to our lecturers. We'd also have some exchange visits in the debates that would participate in, and you'd also learn from the different people. So that is what I would advise myself at that stage. Thank you very much, Doctor.
That's wonderful, Michael. You've covered a lot in that advice piece, and a lot that even combines most of what we've talked about with other guests and future guests who are coming here. I will tell you something that continues to come over and over, and something we emphasize on this channel for people who are listening. How you manage your time. And you talked about it again, how you manage your time on campus. This mentorship issue, mentorship. You got mentors when you go to campus. You are mentoring other people right now. The people you are mentoring need to be encouraged to mentor. Partly, this channel is here. Hard mentors that you can touch, feel, speak with.
That's true.
Professor Mondoka Gonyera, who I don't know whether I will ever get him to do a Zoom call. Professor Mondoka Gonyera, apart from being a relative of ours, your grandpa, my uncle, he was also a good mentor for me. And to see somebody from your family who is up there, is a professor, he's gone to UC Davis, he has his family, he's going, everything's going, he's in a different ministries, and he's a straight man with integrity. Those, then he mentors me. Then I mentor all these Nyaka students who call me Papa all over. And now I have you, the relatives, nieces and nephews. I just had an interview with Sharon on money and investments. We just had Ephraim, another nephew, married to my niece. So for full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us, in my family, 5 of us were born, 2 have passed away, 3 of us live. The 3 who are living is Nicholas's dad. Sam's mom, Sam, let me go back. Christine is the oldest that is still living. Her children are Ruth, Hilda, and Michael, who you can see right now. Hilda is married to Ephraim, who just interviewed. Yesterday, you will see in another episode where I interviewed Sharon. Sharon is the daughter of our oldest brother, Frank Tumushari. Fathers didn't leave a child. They all passed away. Gaddafi was 1 year older than Michael. And that is our families. So we have now a baby. As I was graduating Makere University on my graduation, Michael was on the lap as a baby. If I had our producer Matt, if he has time, I can give him a picture of you at my graduation, you and Gaddafi praying in a bucket in those jars, plastic jars. Another important lesson I want to reemphasize here is what you have demonstrated as a young man in our family and committed to continue doing, which is living a healthy life. Michael has taken me on runs in Ishaka. Michael has taken me on exercise. He's a friend who teaches swimming. Isaac has taken us in Makere pool. He has made sure we eat right, sleep, very important. I still play football. The world calls it football, America calls it soccer. It's not American football we are talking about world football. Exercise, eat well, be healthy, and very important that many young people are neglecting now is sleep. Turn off your phones. And
that's true.
Sleep. Turn off the computer. You can do as many games as you want. You can try to justify it. You need your sleep, and that sleep is going to help you to wake up as a healthy and functioning person. So we have covered about the advice we would give young people. We know when I asked you for the bio you sent me was all geared towards church. Man of faith. And you talked about, by the way, the fact that you made friends. You were a shy boy. You made friends and you were encouraged to make friends who are females so you can learn about females. Come. This is a family-friendly thing. So you made friends on campus. Come now. As we record this, definitely being a family friendly, you say hi to your cousin.
Hi.
Nolan, how are you doing?
Say Michael. Okay. Did you want to ask me something?
We're just done.
Okay. Go do the games. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have children and they come in your Zoom, do not chase them away. Let them participate. Let them say what they need to say. This is another episode I will have one day because recently I was an event, Tess and Talia with the British ambassador seated on a high table. They came and wanted to ask me something. They sat on my lap, started asking me. Another one sat on the ambassador's lap, started also asking. And afterwards, she said, that's the greatest lesson you can teach in a patriarchal society where children are not allowed to come to their fathers. I love my children. That's not something I would ever done with my father, but as a father of 4 children, I don't mind. This is my channel, TJK. If you don't want to see my children, you don't need to be on this channel.
That's true.
And if you are a father, always give them a priority, number 1 priority in your life. They feel valued, they want to be seen, and they will grow up to be like Michael right here. Where I was going with this, Michael, the question I was going to get to is, when I asked you for bio, the bio you sent me, and I'm going to read it, then we can talk about it a little bit. Michael Ahimbisibwe is a member of Mount Olive Seventh-day Adventist Church. Michael is passionate about youth ministries. He has been instrumental in the training of pathfinders and master guides of several churches. His skill in training drills and marching is extraordinary. Michael has served in several departments of Mount Olive's church and is still part of the youth ministry. Professionally, Michael is an energy expert. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Physics, Master of Science in Renewable Energy, and is currently a PhD student at Makere University. Faith comes first.
That's true.
Here's the role faith has played in your life and how you got to be a strong man in faith.
Thank you, Hero. The first thing I would tell you is I was born to an elder who even without expressing himself would instruct you. My father is a man of very few words, but the few that come out are worthwhile. And
Yes.
I would want to say that how I became to love the God that I have loved is watching what my parents were and were serving in church. I was born when they were already elders. I was born when they were already master guides, that is in the youth ministry or scouts or something like that, people can relate. So the first lessons of spirituality were drawn not just by what my parents were saying, but what they were and what they were doing. Would have devotions. If you are an Adventist, or you would be acquainted with the lesson study guide. That is a daily devotion guide that would study. Then later on, that would be in the evening, sometimes in the mornings, would have a chapter. You'd be instructed to read a chapter or portions of the chapter. They would split. Ruth reads part, Hilda reads part, I read part. Then after that, would have turns. Dad leads out in a prayer. Then mom would lead out, Ruth, Hilda, and the rest. And also would be encouraged not just to sing hymns, but also learn them. So my spirituality stems from the family background that I was raised in. Then the second thing is I had my first sermon preached when I was 9 years old. They gave me about 4 pages, which I had to commit to memory. And after that, I went on the pulpit and I had to deliver. The first sermon that I preached led to 2, 3, and I've lost count of how many sermons. So apart from having parents that were spiritual, I was also given a chance to serve my God at a tender age. I started to command parade, that is the youth ministry, the Pathfinder, or the scouting that other people may relate to, when I was 6 years old. That is the first time I commanded the parade, that is in the Adventurers Club. And all through, I came to go through all the progressive classes until I became a master guide. Then the next thing is our spirituality. These days, I don't know if they still happen, we would have excursions where children from this church would go to another church to minister. Children from this church would go for a camp somewhere. Children of this church would meet with the children across the whole world to participate in international events, learn, demonstrate skills, commit Bible verses and spirit of prophecy to memory, go and showcase acting drama about Bible characters. And in most cases, King David would go to Simon, would go to all these things. So spirituality was around me. Then the last thing is the media in our house was highly controlled. There was a time for TV. And if I remember properly, all the TV movies, apart from the Runyankore Chitara comedy movies that were there, the rest of them were Bible character movies. And you would grow up looking forward to being like David of killing Goliath, wanting to be a Joseph, the prime minister, looking to be like Esther or whichever. So we had media content.
Okay, we are having technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm sure it will bounce back. Michael was talking about his upbringing, his mom and dad, my sister and my brother-in-law, Dan Tudiasingra, the work they have done in their home to make sure that children are raised, focused, reading devotions, preaching the gospel. Even when Michael was 9 years old, he was saying that at 9 years old, he started preaching the word in the church he grew up in. So part of our public speaking in our family has come from this church practice. For many of you who don't have the background, Michael was born 3rd generation in our church. he continued to go on and leave this. Proverbs 26 verse 2. Proverbs 22 verse 6. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says that train up your child in ways so when they grow up they do not depart. Michael, I was referring back as technology was bouncing back. I was telling them that your parents trained you and your sisters in ways that we won't depart from. And
that is
goes back to your mother was raised by my mother, who was raised by my grandmother. And for me, as my understanding goes back, grandmother and grandpa were the first people to start a Seventh-day Adventist church in our region, the church that still stands today. I recall as a child, our grandpa was so strong in faith. He would gather all of us grandchildren, and every Friday we had to recite memory verses. Last weekend I was preaching at a church and I told them about the time when I fell from a tree and my grandmother came to the hospital every single day reading from the book of Psalms. I'll tell you that story once again another time. And for 6 months, this 80-year-old grandma walked miles and miles to come and save one grandchild. So you are embedded. Contrary to you, who had both mother and father who are so much in faith, my mother was your grandma, my father was a different thing altogether.
That's true.
All that put together, our prayers that grandma did, instilled in your mother, have continued to show in you. When I was a baby, my grandma, my maternal grandma, mom's mom, wanted me to be a pastor. Ended up being a pastor. Then my mother, when all of you were born, said, maybe one of my grandchildren could be a pastor. You have really done a good job to balance your professional life, but also continue to be faithful. I will ask you later about you being shy and having girl who are friends, whether the listeners can say you are single, available, searching, or taken. But that's not what we are going to get in right now. While you are out, you are finishing the fact that you read the Bible, your father read as an example, your mother being a strong woman. I remember your father telling me that when I married your sister, people said, you married a Muchiga. She's going to beat you up. Ladies and gentlemen, my sister Michael's mom is still married to her husband, Michael's dad, Dan. Those of us who didn't marry Bachiga, Faida, in the middle, here I am, divorced twice. Faida, divorced. We don't have the wives. I don't have the wife. Faida doesn't have a husband. And we marry different people. And the one who was scared that the wife would beat him, married and going strong. The second question I'm going to ask you, then we can veer into so many different topics. I know you have done work with Australian Embassy. Know you have done work at UNDP. Know you have done subcontracts. Within this work scope, you interact with people from different cultures, different religions, different faith backgrounds. Many people who I interview, who are CEOs and manage a large number of people, I ask about their management style. How do you work with different people with different backgrounds and embrace everybody to work in a very tight, good environment? Within that, how at your young age have you managed to manage resources that God has given you that are within your reach?
Thank you very much, Hiro. Starting with managing people, or I would maybe refer it to relating and working with people, because I don't even think it's a senior. I've only had a few people who I am supervising or overseeing. And one of the things I've come to learn is, or the approach I've always used, one is the first opening thing I've learned is being polite. Whether it's a subordinate or someone above you, politeness melts responsibility and eases coordination. In times where there's tension, in times where there's no accountability, politeness will calm the situation. So the first thing I always do is be polite. Whether we're being asked, whether it's in an email, whether it's in a WhatsApp group text. There's one colleague of mine who told me, you should stop sending me WhatsApps like they're emails. I want to rest after work. I was like, okay, I will adjust on that, because there would be kind greetings, regards, or cheers or something. So being polite. The second thing is understanding your job description or your contract or your terms of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, when you understand the reason as to why you've been brought on board, it helps you to fit in the whole cycle or the system of operation. So the first thing I always do is understand what I am supposed to do, understand the expectations. Then in expectations, there's also need to manage expectations. There's a time when I just got into the embassy, the Austrian embassy, and one of the things I think I had set precedence, assignments that would take days, I would do them in hours. And this attracted more assignments. So the expectations shot so high. Then at a certain point, I think I became ill. And for the first time, I had a backlog. And everyone would come and say, this is unlike Michael. Michael cannot be doing this. Is everything okay? So setting and managing expectations is also very important. People need to know your competencies. People need to know, you need to be honest about what you can and cannot do. And don't be shy to ask, but don't ask the obvious. Google is around to help us and do everything. Bosses, managers, employers prefer people who are self-driven, people who find solutions for challenges, not ask for what to do when at every time. But they also want to be acknowledged by seeking for permission, guidance, and clarity to be on the same page. The third thing that I always do working with people, one is I have always appreciated that in as much as people need to be professional, in as much as people need to be serious, it takes some elements of simple humor to be able to calm tensions. I can give you an example. There's a time we had a budget that we were trying to work on with a project with some government parastatal, and there were figures were not tarring. And I was tasked to use Excel and realign those different figures for that kind of budget and the project, because it had to be signed. And there was tensions, this one saying, don't do this one saying, do this one saying, we cannot do this, our policy says this. And in a light moment, I told them, what if all of us don't do any of what any of you is recommending? What would happen? And everyone started laughing. I actually didn't know what I was going to say next, but when everyone laughed about everything, all of us got composed, and the ambassador was able to say, Michael, handle this part of the budget, advisor so-and-so, manager so-and-so, do X, Y, and Z. And in 3-5 minutes, everyone knew what they're supposed to do. Going back to our offices, we reported back after 30 minutes, and the project was signed, everything went smoothly. So there is need to also have freedom that will allow people to be themselves, get comfortable, be in their skin, and not feel the tension. Then the last thing that I would also recommend about working with people is respect.
Yes.
If your boss prefers a particular prefix to his name, add it. It won't take away your ego. If your boss is less qualified than you are, he is your boss. If one of your subordinates seems to challenge your estate, respect their understanding and their whatever they are coding you. Whenever someone tries to disrespect you, if you disrespect them in return, you're stooping low to that level, but rather you can elevate them by giving them the respect. So respecting the people we work with in terms of respecting their opinion, respecting divergence in a particular point of view, respecting people's careers, respecting the profession, then also respecting age, seniority, and experience helps you to learn. And I also would say this, when I wake up, I have a to-do list. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know the expectations of both the people I'm looking over, the people I'm looking up to, the people I'm managing, the people that are managing me, and I plan for my work. Then lastly, I always talk to God about whatever I'm going through. There are times when you're at work, you do not know what to do, things are frustrating you. There are times when things don't go unexpected, but every time I kneel down and I tell God, I am stuck here, I tell God, this is not working out. Things may not work out the moment I step off my knees, but I step off my knees with a state of mind that gives me joy and comfort in whatever unquivering circumstances to go over whatever I am going through. Then the second question was about managing resources.
Yes.
One of the resources I have had is time and talent. It could be treasures or the money. So at first, depending on the time of schedules, I normally sleep between 5 hours to 8. And when I was at campus, sometimes I would sleep for 4 hours. That is towards the exams. Or I would ensure that I have a constant sleep of 6 hours that I don't have to work over much towards the end. So managing time, this is what I normally do, is you have, at the end of the day, you look at what have you done, what is pending, and what can be pushed. So you plan for the next day as you close the previous. The second thing is I wake up, do a devotion. After a devotion, that is scripture, pray. Sometimes I sing, or if I can't sing, I put music in the background. Then after that, I do my exercise. After the exercise, prepare, then go to work. When I reach at work, the previous day I had left things that are supposed to be done. So when you get there, sometimes you get new tasks. At times, you work on the ones you've had. So having a to-do list. Then the last thing is on managing time is have a schedule and stick to it. If 10 p.m. is when you sleep, do sleep. 5 a.m. or 5:30 is when you wake up. Keep that consistently. The body adjusts. You don't need the alarms. You don't need to be stressed. You wake up fresh and healthy. Then number 2, managing money. I would want to say, when I was growing up, I would not see notes, bills, coins hung around the house. But one of the things I remember seeing, you would always learn of a particular asset the parents have acquired. You would learn of, before something happened, my father used to have cows in Rukunjiri, but later on those cows are no more. So you'd hear maybe there's a cow, then you'd hear there's a small piece of land they have added. Next thing you hear, there are particular trees they have planted. So one of the things I learned from my parents, especially, I would want to say this, especially my mom, is acquire assets, no matter how small they are. My mother has gone around getting small pieces of land that goes on being annexed one to another. And when you see her progression as a humble primary teacher, and as she's retiring, the things she's able to pull off through her savings, through her annexing of resources, planting of trees, buying of land, the things are commendable. You look at that and you're like, Mom, good job. Way to go, way to go. So the first thing I learned from that is the moment you make some money, you divide it in 4 things. The first one, my mother told me, if you want to be in trouble, you cheat God. So the first thing that I do is between 15 to 20%, which is God. That is 10% tithe, then 5 to 10 belongs to offering, charity, belongs to humanitarian. Okay, humanitarian is big, but acts of kindness. Yes. Buy someone something, reach out to this one, mobilize and go out and support this. A friend has a wedding, all those things. Then the second thing that I was told, after you have paid God, pay yourself. And my mother told me, when you have that money, the net percentage, because my tithe is on the gross of whatever incomes I have. Then after you have done that, when you come, the 30% of the net should go to savings. So at a tender age, I remember when I had just finished my high school, that is 2012, I managed to enroll and start mentoring and also teaching in Nyaka for the primary schools, which was a very wonderful experience. I was doing both the primary and also the senior 4s. So there was a stipend that I was being given. And at that point, I was sleeping at my auntie's house, eating supper and breakfast at home. Lunch was provided at Nyaka. So I literally didn't have anything to spend my money on. So I saved all those different resources, maybe 10K or whatever for airtime. And towards the end of my work, I was able to start a liquid soap thing, or I would say a liquid soap producing venture. And it pushed me all through campus and different avenues. So the first thing I did was save, later on investing. I have made some bad investment decisions to learn from. I have made losses, but one of the things I've come to learn is that once you have money set aside for savings, it always helps you. Then after you've put aside 30%, the 50% that remains is divided into two: capital expenditure and luxury. So the capital would be rent, would be food, would be clothes, would be other bills. Then luxury would be a new shoe. It would be a trip to somewhere. It would be maybe contribution to someone who wants to have some forms of entertainment. And that is how my money goes. Then a part of my money I also want to say is I have purposed, which I learned with a few other friends, that every year we identify someone who we work with. Either they have been struggling, they have shown some work ethic and some responsibility. We start up something together with them, either a small shop, or you give them small resources to start whatever they want. And that is something that we're continuing to do. This is our third year. So yeah, second year we are doing this. And I think when there's something you talked about shame and shamelessness, I will also highlight that towards that, but it's something that I will also do. So that is basically it about my resources. Thank you very much, Uncle.
Whoa, Michael, you know, people have been asking me each time I do these interviews, including my producer, Marge. It says, Jackson, and this, when you see me looking down, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking notes. I'm a note taker because I don't take this knowledge for granted. When we were children in Kanungu, they used to tell us that the chicken learned from an egg. Meaning, traditionally in our patriarchal society, and by the way, I'm going to touch on that subject. In our patriarchal society, grown men think that their children cannot teach them something. Our back generations, my father actually still believes in that. As as I am around the world, global citizen, as much as I've done for my communities, my father will go to his friends and talk about how he's proud of his son. When I am there, he will never say a word of "you've done a good job" or give me advice. If I give him advice, he'll walk away and not say a word. His patriarchal growing, he's never been able to break the cycle, to break the trauma that he went through as a young man. And we'll have a topic about father issues, has not allowed him to do that. I have done it differently, learning differently. Michael learned a lot of these things from his father because it's a different generation. So his father is his hero. He's done all these things which he's learning and now implementing, building from where father and mother are.
That's true.
On the contrary, part of why I keep doing the things I do in this world, for me, I had to learn a different way. So when Michael was young, all his sisters, all my nieces and nephews, I've been the closest person to them, taking their advice, learning from them, but also sharing what I'm learning so we can learn together. I could call President Obama right now and have this interview. But before we get to President Obama, I want you to see the importance of family, importance of these connections and learning from each other. Many of you, adults, young people, will see this, and let me again go back. Managing time. We have talked to people. We've interviewed so many people. We interviewed a friend of mine out of Ghana, and he introduced the resources that God gives us. We hear every person we get here talking about their mothers. Mothers who are out there, all future mothers. This tells you the role you play in this society. The way you raise your children, you are the one who's going to raise future husbands of people. You are the one who is going to raise future professors of people. What you do in your early age, in the formative years of your children, will play a huge role as they grow up. We are also learning that technology is not stable. Afterwards, I'm going to ask Michael how much data I have cost him doing this call because the screen, no either data is out, but we continue to go. Manage your time is a lesson Michael is teaching us here. As you get my age, you also realize you take notes and you have put on glasses to read them. But let me repeat the four things Michael's mom, my sister Christine, Tujasingra, taught him and his sisters. Do tithing. We who grew up in the church, we give money to God because God gives us everything. So we give. Tithing is 10% in our church. Don't know where you come from. If you don't believe in any religion, take your growth and give away some money to something you care about. Then 5% goes into other things, but he gives to God, he gives to himself. This is how you are going to jump your future. If you don't save, Sharon told us, if you don't do anything now, don't expect anything in the future. That's the critical moment right there. Put something aside. Leave this whole greediness, impressing others to go buy people drinks, to go buy a dress you can't afford, to go buy a car you can't afford. People have told me, I would love to have a car. You are renting a one-room house in Kamota, and you want to buy a car for 6 million.
And park it
What
at the
gives
neighborhood.
you a head to think, not to just go around making stupid decisions? That does not make sense, ladies and gentlemen. Get to the smoker house, save on the rent, and slowly get to the house. You cannot jump up and go from 0 to driving a Range Rover. We have so many young people now, especially women, who are going to that. They go and date somebody who has so much money, they go and buy them a car, and you see this 20-year-old person driving the most expensive, but at what price? Deep inside you, you're selling yourself to impress somebody without growing the wealth. And if you don't grow your wealth slowly, you cannot appreciate it, and it is not going to last. I can give you 1 million shillings right now. If you don't know how to manage that resource, it's going to be gone in 1 week. If you start with saving 10, whether it is 10,000, whether it is 10 kwacha, eventually you learn how to manage your resources and you grow wealth, not just for you, but for generations to come. Michael is already saving for children he does not have, because he built on the foundation his father did and his mother, and now they are growing slowly. Then after you pay yourself, save that money. When it compounds and you have a big saving, you start an investment. He invested when he was in senior 4. I have many young people who come to me when I'm in Uganda and say, oh, I've been building a house, I would like a contribution for iron sheets. Yes, but you could come different and say, Jackson, I see your house is getting older. Can you give me a job to paint it so I can buy iron sheets? Those are two different things. Michael is right here. He will tell you, I never sent him pocket money. I'm not the guy who does that. I invest in something that is going to build him. He did internship at Nyaka, stayed with Aunt Faida, saved all the money, started a liquid shop, and then he came to Uncle. You have so many grandmothers who use soap. Children wash hands every day. He identified a need within what I already do. And what I tell you, go talk to the country director. That's because he's my nephew. I was not going to go take your soap now. Now you have an entry. But he talked to the country director, pitched the business, and he got to make soap. Then he invested. Then you also know that you cannot have all the knowledge you need in this world. He later joined with friends and formed an investment group. They are now learning from each other. If I knew what Michael knows now, I would even be way far in my life. The reason we are giving you this free knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in this world, is to build you and for you to start early. And early has no age limit. Whether you are 70 years, you can start now. Whether you are 15, start now. Uncle gives you pocket money, spend half of it, save the other one. When it compounds, do something. You, Nyaka graduates, my children all over the world, instead of asking your director, your papa money, identify a need. Nyaka hires teachers. Nyaka eats food every day. Nyaka builds grandmothers' houses. 20,000 grandmothers are out there. You can come and pitch me or pitch the country director. You want to go and teach them how to use their phones. You want to teach them how to clean their toilets. You want to learn how water systems work within those houses. We contract people every single day to build a wooden house. Anybody can build a wooden house, and these are, whoo! Your mother is going to be so excited watching this. Your aunts, when we put it in a Rukwira group of all our grandparents. Now I'm going to have so many requests to interview because we are a family that is blessed beyond. We have business people all around, but I want to make sure I cover the other question, and I will take notes and I will come back. Other important lesson, Michael, you shared is being polite. You demonstrate politeness. You have also taken it further and said, if you don't know your expectations, understand expectations from your bosses, but manage your own expectations. You come with your own. If you have ever been to a workshop, which many of you have been, you come, they ask you, we are going to give you this is the agenda. But by show of hands, tell us your expectations. The trainer is trying not to waste their time and waste your time. They want to make sure your expectations are also met. Young people, if you don't know something, Google it. Your phones are not only to watch porno and go on TikTok and make other people richer by enriching their TikTok and videos they put on. Your phone is a resource. Many of us didn't have internet until we were in our 30s. You have internet as soon as you have the phone. Every day, learn something new. Learn how to spell a word. Earlier, Professor Ephraim said plant physiology, and I said plant psychology. If you ask many young people right now, my children in primary school and secondary school, to spell those two words, psychology and physiology, many of us would have scratched and looked for Oxford dictionary that you can't afford. But these days, children in Nyaka have a phone. Google, Siri, spell, psychology, physiology, and you have your fingertips. Use your phone every single day to learn something new, to learn something that will build you, rather than waste all the time watching soccer, watching TikToks, or create your own TikToks. Videos are uploaded on YouTube for free. You can create something that will be ongoing. The last thing that I will ask you, but also tie into our theme of 3, we have answered the advice. We know that you, Michael, can you still hear me?
Hello, Uncle, hello?
Yes, I can hear you. We have asked everyone who has come here what advice they will give young people. We have asked them about managing resources and managing people. And we also ask people, when did you find your passion? How did Michael know he wants to be an environmental engineer? I know you said, and I remember this, when you finished senior 6, the course they gave, you wanted to go take electrical engineering, right?
Civil
engineering. And Makere University gave you environmental engineering. When did do you love environmental engineering now? Or is it
I
love it. And why? How did you get to embrace it?
So one of the things I can tell you is we all at times have moments of denial. And before it becomes denial, we always do everything in our power to either get to, be, or do whatever we want to do. So at the beginning, I had not really heard of the course or recommended environmental science. What is environmental science and what is this? So going into it, I had not fully understood it. But when I read about it, one of the things that made me interested about it is that when you look at medium to large projects, even small, all of them require an environmental impact assessment. So understanding the relevance of the course or the knowledge I was about to acquire when I was 2012 August, because we enrolled at around, I think on the 6th of August 2012, for the first 2 weeks in trying to change that and also having discussions with Ephraim and the rest of the other people, the first thing I learned about the course was that it's almost a prerequisite for projects. So that was the first thing that I loved about it. The second thing is, growing up, one of the things that I loved and I still love up to now was going into the wild, nature, the camping, the hikes, the tours. So environmental science gave me a chance to understand these things better and also get to a detail. So the knowledge I was acquiring about God's creation brought the second interest. And the third interest that I learned, one, I met two environmental scientists. One of them was approved by NEMA, another one was just an individual. Yeah. And when I saw their cut on a project budget, Uncle, I liked it. So I realized that in as much as they had grown the hierarchies of professionalism and experience, but the remuneration they were getting from the project was good. And to make matters worse, make matters even better, their work was to set stage for the rest of the work, meaning that environmental science, environmental engineering is a foundation that guides direction of project implementation. It assesses impact of the work that you're going to do. It goes ahead to give the scope of what you're going to do, how it's going to affect the environment, how it's going to affect the people, because environmental science or engineering spans from environmental, social, and economical impacts. So learning of the relevance of this course is what made me love it, looking at professionals who are making wonderful careers out of it, then also the fact that there are possibilities of actually making money, because I thought if you're not an engineer, if you're not a doctor, these things of money, you go slow. But I realized you can actually earn well. So those four things are the ones that guided me. And the interaction I had with the gentleman was called Lufafa. I don't know if we are not so much in touch. Then the second gentleman that made me love it was Ephraim. The third one is the late Professor Noble Banada. For him, he told me his first course was food science. Yes. Then he went to the University of Kentucky. I think he did chemical engineering, went to another university somewhere and did a PhD in chemical engineering, went to MIT and did a postdoc. And he has been, before he rested, he was a celebrated scientist, a consultant nationally and internationally. He had won grants and everything. So looking at people who have started, because he also told me, I didn't want food science. Me, a man, go learn how to cook. No. So, but when you look at the career he built, I was inspired by them. So I made peace with that. Then starting to work, I started with Narrow, looking at some civil works that they were doing, the relevance of identifying the right fields for plant testing and breeding, then some invasive species and managing them and their effects on the environment. So I understood and got to fall in love with this convocation because it was wonderful. Then I learned that you could focus on either food, water, but in all these things, I'm developing a career around water, food, and energy. So I went ahead to top on the environmental science with a master's in renewable energy. Then now Biosystems Engineering to understand the biological systems, their impact interrelations for a good systems thinking, because things don't work independently. So I love what I studied, in as much as I started out with resentment, because I came to learn its relevance. I came to learn its place in the world and its relevance in project management. And number two, my fears of not building a resource, not making the money, not building a good career were humbled by how people have transformed using that very course, and even other courses, even others that you would want to despise, and they have made their niches to be relevant in society.
Wow, so we have talked about a lot of academic work. We have talked about what this environmental science does. Ephraim, who was here, doctor, before you came, you are Makere. now at NALO, accomplished scientist and continuing to grow. He wanted to be a medical doctor, didn't get it. Ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us, sometimes what our parents' expectations they have are completely different from what we have. I told Nicholas as a young man knowing this background, that I would like you to do what you love. Whether what you love is dancing, whether it is Russian history, as long as that what you love also is going to sustain your future. I'll pay for you to go through school. When you are done, you need to be able to sustain your future. Parents who are listening to me, many of you are more experienced than me. I've had so many conversations. I won't say a name because I don't have permission, but a man I know and respect who works with me on my farms in Uganda, his son was going to university and he insisted his son needed to go study business. This man is a computer genius. He's actually on TJK team, so you know who I'm talking about, but since I didn't ask permission, I can't say his name. Computer genius. He was already a YouTube person. He knew how to earn money from YouTube. So he came to me and said, my mentor, you are my father and you are good friends. Please tell him how computer science is more marketable and will give me an edge. Because whether I study it or not, I'm not going to stop doing it. I started with a gentleman who respects me, and I told him I told him, look at this phone. I said, yeah, this phone, your son knows what makes it work behind there. For you, you make a call and you think you are done, but there is a mechanic behind it. And the world is going to need more phones. If we don't let him study this and study business, he will be jobless, like many youth looking for a job somewhere, but he's able to create a job. By God's grace, he listened to me and his son is pursuing what he loves. And it is paying him a monthly income because he can do wonders with computers. So to you parents, especially in Kanungu, especially in Uganda rural areas, let your children study what they love as long as it can pay for it. And a good example here, we see Ephraim didn't become a medical doctor, but science he loves. Before that, he had his PhD and his leading team. Michael here didn't get his civil engineering, environmental science, is doing it. And there are millions of Michaels, there are millions of Ephraims, and millions of Jacksons. I wanted law, I didn't get it, but here I am successful as anybody can wish to be successful. So we've talked about choosing even a course at Makere. I have many listeners who have never been to school. I have many listeners who stopped at primary school and who maybe didn't complete school. What advice your age mates, who you also have out there, and people who will be watching from Hong Kong, China, Brazil. I never go to school. I'm not an environmental engineer. I didn't go to Columbia like TJK. I'm not academically inclined. How do I go about all the stuff we are talking about here and still be successful with the education I have or education I don't have? Speak to the youth who are not educated, what they do. I'm a border driver. Can I also save money? Can I also exercise? How do I find the food I want rather than eat chapatis every single day, shikamandu? How do I go about this? These things, people look at them and think, TJK lives in America. You know, he talks about eating good, you can afford it. Yeah, he talked about running New York Marathon. He has to wear Nike shoes and he can. How do I in Kanungu or Rwanda or Kabale also live that lifestyle without an education? The youth wants to hear from you, Michael, and wants to hear on this channel because they are there. I see you. I know you've commented and you want to learn more.
Thank you very much, Uncle, about that. Let me use this analogy. Uncle, you've seen people who have some forms of disability tend to have their other abilities spearheaded or stronger sense. Like someone who is blind can hear promptly. Someone who can't see, his hands and sense of feel is augmented and well enhanced. So one of the things I've come to appreciate about either God or someone might say nature is that we are at times blessed with balance. Whenever there is something insufficient, our exposure builds on whatever we have to help us survive, because science, nature supports the survival for the fittest.
Yes.
You don't have an education, you don't have a chance to an education, years have gone by, or even you're still young, you don't see the opportunity. The first thing that I would want to agree on is that you need to first make peace with yourself. Accept your current estate. That is number one. The second thing that I think would work for us is that every one of us has something that they can do. Let me give you an example. I am not trying to demean or underlook any profession, but
Yeah.
when we are growing up, these days people go and study journalism, people go study these things. But when we are growing up, people who would be on radios are people who had learned the mastered the art of speech. They know how to carve their tonations, they know how to speak, they know how to do everything. So they understood what was within their means. When we come to the Bible, yes, you can say Moses was a general in the Egyptian army, but when he had lost everything and was just tending the sheep of his father-in-law, when
Yes.
God came to bless him, the question he asked was, what do you have in your hands?
All right. Yes.
He did not ask him, what would you need to bring my people out of Egypt? So many of us normally ask, what do I need to make it in life? But the question that needs to be answered is, what do I have now that I can start with? So people who have not gone to an education, I would want to share with one. There are two people I look up to in business. And all those two people have not gone beyond primary level. But they can count to the penny. They can project profit and loss. They are able to tell the times. They are able to read the market. They're able to understand people. So one of the things that we need to capitalize on is that when you don't have an education, what can you do? Is it the crafts you can make? Is it the money you can manage? Are you able to use your mouth? Uncle, you know Andrew.
Yes.
Andrew is professor. He has learned the art of instructing in English. So Andrew mastered the art of communication, and it has taken him across the country, abroad, to instruct different people across the world on how to communicate. So he understood his blessing. So let's look at what we have. Is it the mouth that you can use? Is it the hands you can use? Is it the skills you can use? Then the last thing is, you don't need to go to school to learn a skill.
Yes.
Sometimes school requires you to have a particular qualification, but some of the skills that are required right now are free. There are YouTube videos. Yes, you may say, I don't know English. If there are no YouTube videos, there are people in our communities that are doing things that you think you can do. There's a young man who, you remember the project I told you with my friends. There's a young man who I met. You know, when you're driving through town, there's jam. There are people you meet with like 7 pineapples at the same time.
Yes.
When I looked him in the face, he really looked young. And I parked on the side and I asked him, how old are you? And how far did you go with school? He told me, I think he was 16 and he had gone up to primary 7. I asked him, he had finished it, and he told me he had, and I asked him, what would you want to do? Do you want to keep selling pineapples? He told me, I want to learn how to repair cars. And I have one of my trusted mechanics. He said they enroll people for a garage, and the course for you to learn is 500K, which can be paid in 3 installments. There we have, and I hope one of these days he's going to be a mechanic. He didn't go to school, or he didn't go very far in school, but he realized that everyone drives a car. Cars break down. They need repair. I can learn that. Batteries need to be changed. I can do this. People need their hairs cut. People need their hairs braided. I can try this. People need their shoes shined. So one of the things that I want to end by saying is that in realizing what you have, you can be able to get what you want. Then lastly, don't underestimate anything that can bring an income. Many of us, because we want to be at a particular level in comparison with our age mates, despise humble convocations because 1, they are shameful, they are dirty. 2, they make us look a bit bad. But believe you me, when you're hungry, the hunger in your stomach cannot extend to my stomach. So in looking introspectively, you need to see what works for me, not what people see me as. So let's respect what convocation we can. And if you have no education, incline on the skills and you'll benefit. The last thing I want to say this is that long ago, people would want, like, you're an employer, uncle, you can bear me witness. In the past, people would look at CVs to see where have you gone, what have you studied. Okay, but yes, these days, the question is, what can you do?
Yes,
what can you bring on the table? Is independent of what have you studied. So what can you do even when you're uneducated is what you have to offer the world in exchange for a paycheck, in exchange for a salary, in exchange for a contract. And the moment you identify that, be it humble, be it exorbitant, be it magnificent, appreciate it, respect it, and do it.
My man, ooh, the knowledge you share. You need to write a book in your next chapter as you finish your PhD. And I'll
let me first sweat with these review papers and dissertation. These things are taking me.
I will take the book to the world. And
thank you.
I can tell you, I know everybody has a book in them, and I think you shared so many chapters of that book, Michael. And I'm serious. Really,
you should share the notes such that I have where to start.
They're all here. And it's going to be on YouTube. You can transcribe. Right. Yes, somebody can write all these things. And really, we've made a book here between the interview with Ephraim and you. Very important lesson, ladies and gentlemen. Ability that God gives you. People who are saying, I don't have education, you don't have to come to USA, you don't have to get an education, you don't have to have a PhD or have environmental engineer science. God gives you according to what he wishes for you or your higher power, because we want to be as inclusive as we can. Not everybody believes in God, but we want everyone, your higher power, deeper in there. You as a human being, you are created, you are here with exceptional ability. And the example you used, Michael, I love it so much. I talk about it all the time. The other day we were in our group discussion with men and women who we met together in our group therapy kind of on Friday. And one of them was really discouraged. I told him, part of these trials and temptations, when one thing is taken away because it's going through a difficult situation with immunodisease, as that area goes down, God gives you another area that compensates for you. You meet somebody who has no legs, try to wrestle them on their arm. Their upper body is compensated for the lower body who is not there. The person who is blind will cross Kampala Road, will cross New York City Road without being hit by a car, because God compensates the sight with an ability to sense using a stick and cross over. When you use your computers and phones, the chips that are put in these computers are mainly made in factories where people with different abilities are trained on one task to put that chip in one place only. If you tell them to put it in another place, it's never going to work. But their ability to put one chip in a very complicated situation and do it every day repetitively is what God compensates with them for everything else they could do. So God created you with special abilities, regardless whether you are, whether you repair Ugariris, whether you do. I also have told many people, I am good at what I do. And so I also know other people are good at what they do. So when my car is broken, I am not getting under that car trying to fix it, because that's not an ability I have. Others learn and do it themselves, but I will get a professional. I'm not going to get a child who is sick and needs surgery and take them to an accountant. I take them to a doctor. My books and taxes, I take them to the accountant. Then I want to raise millions of money. I'm going to do it myself because I'm good at that. I can manage people. I can do these things. So our abilities must be followed. I know the data. I don't know how much that you spent data on this Zoom, Michael. Data is crunching there. We are going to wrap up this. I've said to everybody who come here, shameless plug or something else you do. We've learned about your environmental engineering. We've learned about your faith. I know you volunteer in different places. Know you've launched different businesses. And don't worry about a business you launch and fails. Ford Motor Company failed so many times before it became a Ford. Steve Jobs, Apple, failed so many times. Michael Jordan, the best player that God ever made. I mean, others are coming up with LeBron James and stuff. But this man played basketball, but he failed so many times to get in, but eventually he got in. If you don't fail, you don't learn. Somebody told me that recently when we were talking about marriage, and she said to me, I've been married 3 times, Jackson. Now I'm married the 4th time, and I've been married 35 years in my 4th marriage. The first 3 was training. And I go, hoo, hoo, hoo. There's still hope. There's still hope. God gives us different abilities. I love how you've put it. I love the advice you gave other people. And I know in the comments, you brought up Andrew, your cousin, Andrew actually, who didn't go to university, but who teaches English in Somalia. Self-driven. When Andrew wanted to go to get a certificate, he came up to me and said, Uncle, you help the whole world. Here I am. I also need to get a certificate in journalism. I helped him get a certificate in journalism. Every time I've put up a video on TJK, Andrew has a record as #1 to comment, which he watches it and he comments. He wants to be like Samson, the MC. Kasumba. He has a channel on YouTube. We will put a link down here, and maybe one of these days I'll nail down Andrew and we can speak to him so we can encourage more people. Stay the faith, keep the faith alive. What would you like to shamelessly plug in or talk about in the next 5 to 10 minutes as we wrap up this conversation?
Thank you again for the opportunity. One of the things I would want to shamelessly talk about is I am growing to be a consultant in particularly 4 areas. That is energy, biomass, biodiesel, bioethanol, and other forms of biomass. Number 2, I'm also growing to be a consultant. I've done different work, UNDP, RHAMZ International, the Austrian Embassy, in food systems. That is food systems mapping, value chain computations and modeling. So then the last thing is I'm now doing small courses on systems thinking and systems leadership to help people look at the interdependency of things and be able to work and coordinate together. And that looks at stakeholder management. It looks at mapping the different people on how to work together, the operation and coordination of things. So that is also the other thing. So consulting in water, energy, and food is something that I would want if anyone has a need. It can be, the biggest I've done was on the scale of the whole country. That was energy mapping of the renewable energy in institutions. Then also on the scale of major projects for UNDP was for food systems. Then with the Austrian Embassy, it was with water systems and water supply systems and water source points. That was in northern Uganda and in the refugees communities. Then when it comes to business, there are 3 things that I'm doing. One of them is called the Fresh Basket. It has had its punches, but I still thank God the head is still above the waters. That is a business that has a farm. Then it also supplies fresh foods, that is either to a school or it can even go to individuals in their homesteads. Our website still runs where you can order and get whatever you need. But that one, I'm not the one direct in management. That is having a team members that we're doing, but it's something that I started with a colleague. The second thing that I've started with a colleague is called RHAMZ Institute of Data Science. As we advance in the world of technology, artificial intelligence, data, big data, research and development, it's becoming relevant. And we saw that people need these skills. So we have started a virtual institute that instructs you on a period of maximally 60 days, where you can do courses on different programming languages. You can do R, you can do Python, statistical packages, SPSS, Stata, R, Excel. So that is RHAMZ Institute of Data Science. But in addition to that RHAMZ Institute of Data Science, we also do data analysis, data collection, endline, midline, baseline evaluations for projects. If Nyaka wants to experiment on something, if Nyaka has done a project somewhere and wants to understand what has been the impact on the social, economic, and environment. So we also do those kind of studies, feasibility studies of that sort. Then the last thing is I have started, it is in Wandegea, opposite Equity Bank, beside Stanbic Bank. That is a boutique, or it could be a clothing line for particularly ladies. And if you have a need of a cloth, a blouse, a skirt, a dress, a top, a pant, trousers, I mean, you can reach out and we can be able to give you quality at affordable rates. So those are the three things that I'm trying to do on the hustle. And I look forward to the blessings that God is going to usher through these avenues, and even many more that are going to come aboard as we build for a better future. Thank you so much.
You're a man of many talents, my man. Your mother told you to hustle. Your mother told you to pray and read your Bible, asset management. When you mentioned that, I think I didn't drill more into it. She's my sister, definitely. I know her more than you know her, but I'm glad the lesson she has taught you. And ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us, go back to people who have changed your life and tell them while they are still alive. We have a tendency in our culture to wait until somebody dies and you start, oh, they were good people, so what? They are alive. Go back, Michael. Tell my sister Christine, Mama, I was talking about you on TJK channel and I praised you, and I want you to know that what you instilled in me is something important. And it has guided me to this. Though your mom and dad and uncle, we invest in assets because that's where our mind goes. You have diversified and grew with the changes in an environment. I mean, who knew that Michael, son of Christine and Dan, grandchild of Kaguri and Janet and Mario and grandmother, would be talking about renewable energy, biomass, food systems? These are things the president is putting on agenda for the future. Encouraging ministries, should be appointed Minister of Food and Agriculture, on systems leadership. This, ladies and gentlemen, is originating from all the way Nyaka, Nyaka, every block that God has put in our way, we have climbed on it and then built on it. You grow up in a grass-thatched house.
That's true.
You build your adobe mud house with iron sheets, and now people are building with bricks. Next is tiles that your grandmother had in the house. The next is going to be skyscraper and up and up. We are not going backwards. We want to break the cycles and grow. So please, after this, or when you get time, talk to your mother, talk to your father, and let them know the role they have.
Something about appreciating.
Exactly.
Hello?
Yes, we are talking about appreciating people when they are still alive. And I know you know this when in 2017, we put up a Thanksgiving for your grandmother, our mother. None of this, God doesn't tell us what's happening in the future. Birthday, people recorded videos. I was sharing this in a sermon. We recorded videos. She had her TV and DVD where she watched these CDs. God gave her 3 years of watching those, and then she dies in a pandemic. December 21, 2020, during COVID. I remember saying in an announcement that don't worry about traveling to come bury my mother. You thanked her, you showed her your love when she was alive, and she died a happy woman. The funerals you want to do for people, try to celebrate them while they are alive. That's not what this episode was about, but we thank your mom and dad for raising an amazing gentleman. I thank you for sparing time to share with TJK, and we will share this. When we share it, we'll get it to you so you can share. We have learned about his business, Fresh Basket. We have learned about the research. We have heard, he has not told you that he also has goats and has land and continue to hustle on the ground, but also going in the futuristic. You need a consultant in the areas he mentioned. Please reach out and get there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a long episode that combined two young people, young to me, to others, they are elders. These are my children. It's a proud moment as a family. It's also a proud moment academically, and these are subjects that are futuristic. We talked with Professor Ephraim Nuwamanya, who will share his Twitter handle, who will share Michael's Twitter handle, and the ladies who are watching are going, Uncle Jackson, TJK doctor, director, is this man single and looking? Should we send bios? That is something you're going to ask Michael on a personal level. I'm not putting my son on a spot on this public event, but he told you he's accomplished, he's focused, he's a God-fearing man. And to say the least, Michael, I'm so proud of you. I love you. Continue to do the work you do. Continue to mentor others. God has given you a gift to use it to share with others.
Thank you so much, Uncle, for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being an inspiration, for setting precedents, for encouraging, for sparing time, and for all you've done for me as a person. I really am grateful. There are many decisions that I got emboldened because of what you told me or what I've seen you do. There are many things I've dreamed to achieve, and even when I thought I wouldn't, seeing you achieve them has given me strength and stamina to go ahead. And I've always called you my hero because there's a Bible verse that says, we are tossed on every side, but we are never crushed. We have been oppressed, but we are never down. So one of the things I want to thank God for is for you and for what you're doing, being selfless, looking out for others, and blessing the whole world from Nyaka, the family. So may the Lord give you that which you desire at heart. May the Lord give you more years to be a blessing. And above all, and I know you always hear this prayer, and whenever we talk, I tell you, may the Lord bless you to be the best father and mother to those children, or to be the best that they need as they grow up. And above all, when the Lord comes, may he take us to heaven. Thank you very much.
Amen. Share, subscribe, comment. God bless you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.